So, good morning, everyone. My name's Alex Rowland. I'm going to do a proper introduction in a minute. But before we start, I just want to say a massive thank you to all the guys at the Bath Digital Festival and to Becky and all the guys behind the scenes, without whom I certainly wouldn't be able to do this. So, huge thank you to them. Thank you very much to yourselves for joining as well and coming along to watch me babble on slightly incoherently for an hour or so. And also huge thanks to the sponsors of Bath Digital Festival as well, because none of this would be happening if it wasn't for them. So, right, how are we doing? Okay, that's great. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is life-changing digital connections for the learning disability community is the subject of my talk. And we're going to be looking at using everyday tech and how it can drastically improve the lives of people with learning disability. And the event's going to cover why it's vital we keep the tech we use as accessible and simple as possible. We're going to talk a bit about social media, sort of the pluses and some of the kind of little pitfalls that we need to watch out for. And also a little bit about just why we need to be using people with learning disabilities and autism to kind of really supercharge our businesses. I would do a little bit of housekeeping before I start. It's funny because I'm used to doing kind of live talks pre-COVID, obviously. And I feel like I should be saying, oh, right, the toilet is down the hall on the left and that. But I guess you guys kind of know where your toilet is. So I think we'll be all right. And if there's a fire, I think you also know where to meet. So I think we're all right on that score. But it's a funny thing, isn't it? So anyway, you might also hear I'm in a very rural part of Somerset, and I've literally got a field full of cows about 2 meters from me. So if you hear cows or you hear my neighbour with his chainsaw, I do apologise. I'm sure you're all used to doing Zoom calls and things and all the random stuff that happens. So I may have a cat trying to get into my office at some point, which I've got to let in. So apologies for all of that. Anyway, let's get on. So who am I and what do I do? So my name is Alex Rowland, and I am a sole trader running a small company called Your It Now, or Your IT Now, however you want to pronounce it. And I specialise in working with people with learning disabilities and or autism and technology and things like the internet and social media. So often I'll get asked by people like social workers to come in and help someone who's maybe struggling with social media. Maybe they're not too sure of some of the boundaries around that sort of thing. That's a kind of big bit of my work. Also, just getting people to connect digitally. I'm a huge advocate and fan of digital technology and the way it can bring people together, and that's what we're here for today, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So my background is I spent 12 years odd working for social services. I've been working for the last 10 years or so for myself. People usually pay for my services through things like direct payments and individual budgets and all that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I'm funded. So I want to talk about the social isolation of some of the people we support. And especially at this time, never has digital technology been so vital to the work we do. One little story which I do want to just tell you, which kind of shocked me, is when in March, when COVID kind of really hit us. Obviously, a lot of the people I support have additional health needs and things, and so they went straight into lockdown. And there was one couple in particular that I was quite worried about, and I thought, how are they going to cope? Will they be all right? The sad reality is I very soon realised that for them, their life hadn't changed much. There we were all like worrying, or we couldn't go out, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. But the people I supported, they were like, oh, well, we can't do that this week. And it just kind of really shocked me. And I think it really made me even more aware of how vital it is that we have kind of things that we can use to keep in touch and that sort of technology. So, we're dealing with a group of people who are often marginalised and socially isolated anyway. So anything we can do to help them combat that is such a great thing. And the way technology is now, a few years ago, a smartphone or an iPad would have been quite a big investment. Whilst it's still a lot of money for many, many people, it's the kind of relative cost, I think, has come down. And, you know, you can get kind of Android powered tablets from Argos for sort of 60, 70 quid. So it really is kind of very affordable. And the technology that is packed into those devices is just mind blowing. So I just want to show a few little slides, and my great assistant Becky, who's behind the scenes, is going to pop up some slides. These are from an Ofcom report called How Many People with Learning Disabilities Are Using Communication Technology in 2016. So this is what the report looks like. You can Google it online, and it's a great report. There is a slightly more recent, I think, 2018 update, but this will give you kind of some background. So if we could have the next slide, please, Becky. It is a great report. So yeah, it's an easy read as well. So it's great to share with some of the people that we work with. So what we found, around 2 out of every 10 people with learning disabilities said their disability limited the use of a TV, phone, or the internet. And around 1 out of every 10 said their disability limited the use of a landline, smartphone, or PC/laptop. But very few people with a learning disability said their disability stopped them from using different types of communication technology. So that, you know, straight away we can see, like, there's no reason, according to that people we support and work with shouldn't be using all this great tech. Could we have the next slide, please, Becky? Thank you. So with regard to using the internet, what was found was that more people with a learning disability had access to the internet than they did in the past, which kind of we'd expect, because just it is a more common thing for people these days. But there still wasn't as much internet access as people without a disability. So people with a learning disability were still lagging behind in their uptake of it. Those people with learning disabilities who do use it used it less often than people without a disability. But just as many people with learning disabilities use their mobiles to get onto the internet as people without a disability. But they did not use the internet as much at home. So straight away we're seeing kind of how important things like smartphones are going to be. And this is one that I'm really interested in, quite passionate about. More people with learning disabilities use the internet to play games than people without a disability. And yeah, I'm a bit of a gamer, so I'm very aware of kind of how many people with disabilities use games. And if we can, we'll have a little bit of a chat about that later. Becky, could I have the next slide, please? So other technologies, what we found, nearly half of the people with learning disabilities had games consoles like Nintendo's, Xbox and PlayStations in their homes. And this is more than people without a disability. People with learning disabilities were also more likely to use these games consoles than people without a learning disability. People with learning disabilities were just as likely to have a TV in the house as people without a disability, but they were less likely to have a smart TV in their home. And smart TVs are just brilliant. Anyone who's not aware, you know, they are kind of mini computers in themselves. So they're not just for watching Netflix and stuff. You can actually use them to surf online and all sorts. So they're great. They are great. Becky, could we have the next slide, please? Thank you. People with learning disabilities were less likely to have a mobile phone or a landline in their home. Were less likely to have a mobile phone or a landline in their home as people without a disability. More people with learning disabilities had access to and used a smartphone than they did in the past. And once again, it's kind of, smartphones are becoming a much more sort of mainstream thing, really. Many people, we all know people who use them and they are such great tools. So that's not kind of unexpected. But it was still less than people without a disability. So still less people who have a smartphone with LD than without. They were also less likely to have a computer like a PC, a laptop or tablet in their home than people without a disability. So we can see there is still that kind of digital divide. Could we have the next slide, please, Becky? Thank you. And this is kind of just a little graphic breakdown of that. So yeah, you kind of get an idea of the sort of, yeah, the differences. Say, I love that games console one. The fact that, yeah, more people with LD use a games console. I find that very interesting. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Becky. I think that's all of those ones. If we could go back. Lovely. Thank you. So how is digital tech life-changing? The best way I can demonstrate this is to give you a couple of practical examples of how I use it. So I support a gentleman, we'll call him Dave. Dave is a chap who traditionally used to get maybe 3 or 4 hours of support a week, kind of a couple of times a week. Now, Dave is a little bit of someone who he worries about things. He's got some basic reading skills and writing skills, but sometimes he struggles with he can read the letter, but he'll struggle with actually interpreting that into what does that actually mean? What do those words actually mean? So what would happen is I would go in, I'd do my work with Dave on say a Monday. I'd then go home. Dave would then get a letter which he can't quite fathom out, what it's saying. He would worry about that, and he would then have to wait until he saw me again, maybe a couple of days later. And in that time, he's he's a bit worried about this, and he's it's upsetting for him. So Dave loves his technology, and when we got him an iPad, we were able to use FaceTime. FaceTime, I'm sure you're aware, it's a video calling technology, much like Zoom, like Skype, like a lot of these things. So it enables us to see Dave and for Dave to see us. So straight away, what would happen? Dave now, he gets a letter. He will send me a message saying, oh, can I FaceTime you? So yeah, we'll have a little FaceTime meeting. And Dave will say, right, I've got this letter, which I'm worried about. So all we do is we say, right, Dave, can you flip the camera around and hold it over the letter? He does that. So he literally gets his iPad, he just flips the camera, holds it over. I read the letter and I'm like, Dave, don't worry. It's just Reader's Digest telling you that you're in a draw to win £10 million. Don't worry about it. Or conversely, okay, it's a letter from the council and somehow your council tax payment has stopped. So we need to sort that. So no problem. So instantly, that technology just relieves a whole load of worry for Dave. He's, and also he gets to see me, and Dave's got really good boundaries. He doesn't misuse that. He doesn't call me, over the weekend unless it's vital. But he knows that he can, if it is important, he can speak to me, and he has done in the past. And just that connection. One of the things that we want to say about this technology is we love using it. It is never we are not advocating it instead of real good one-to-one face-to-face support. That's not what this is about. What this is about is an added bonus. And I work a lot with kind of local commissioners from a local council and stuff like that. And I totally get, as soon as you mention tech, of course, they're like, oh, and they're not thinking, oh, we can use it to, get rid of people. Of course they're not. But there is a cost implication in using it. And if we can use a really cost-effective thing like an iPad to kind of stretch our services, brilliant. We can just make what we do that even better kind of thing. So it's not, we're not using it to get rid of any face-to-face stuff, but that is just one little example of how we use it. Another thing that is it's kind of baked into the Apple operating system and stuff. So we work a lot with iPads and iPhones, and I'll talk about that in a minute, why we use that. But other brands are available, obviously, and it's not vital. This kind of technology is available across many, many platforms. One of I'll give you another little story. I support a gentleman who, in this case, we'll call Trevor. Trevor is a gentleman with autism. He's highly skilled technically, but he has a very long kind of processing delay. So if you ask Trevor a question, it can take him a minute or two to answer. And of course, the temptation for me as a terrible carer is I will then jump in with another question. So then he's got two questions to answer and he's like, oh my, what do I answer first? So communicating for Trevor can be a little bit of an issue. We were asked to do a bit of bus buddy kind of training with Trevor so he could catch the bus. Trevor lives in a very remote village where there's only like 3 or 4 buses a day. So we started off doing the classic thing of, we'd catch the bus with him. We'd sit on the bus. We'd, point out waypoints for him to look out on the journey for. So when he passed this, he knows he's so far and all this. We'd then get to our destination, we'd get out. And then we did that, we did that with Trevor catching the bus on his own, but me following in the car and all that. I'm sure you guys are all aware of that sort of system. So it ended up with Trevor being at the bus stop, and it was, time for him to catch the bus, and he did it. He did it on his own. He got off the bus, meet me. We sat and had a coffee. Brilliant. With Trevor, the issue he has is kind of, as long as everything works like that, that is perfect. He gets the bus, he comes in, no problem, gets off always at the right stop. If the bus doesn't turn up, Trevor has been in a situation where he's literally, the bus hasn't turned up and he will just wait and he will wait and he will wait. And he's literally been there an hour before kind of his mum or dad or someone has thought, hold on, we haven't heard anything. Let's check what's happening. Now, that's kind of part of Trevor's makeup. He finds it very difficult to kind of know what to do in those situations. So this is where we've been really lucky with the tech. So Trevor's got an iPhone, and built into iPhones is a little app called Find My. It used to be called Find My Friends. It's now, I think, just called Find My. And it looks like a little radar screen. What we did, we spoke to Trevor and we spoke to his parents, and we kind of got it agreed that I would add Trevor to my kind of that app. So I'm on the app, he's on the app. I can see where he is, he can see where I am. Now, what that means is literally, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I know Trevor should be on the bus. I will just pull out the iPhone. I'll have a look. All right, I can see Trevor's still at the bus stop. Okay, I'll give him 5 minutes. So I will then come back in 5 minutes. I'll have a look, and I can see that Trevor's like little dot has moved. So he's now moving along the A39 towards Bridgewater. Brilliant. So I know he's on his way. If that wasn't happening and Trevor's still stationary, I can literally just give him a ring or a text and say, hey, Trev, what's happening? Is the bus coming? He might say, oh, the bus is late or whatever. Brilliant. No problem. I can go and pick him up in the car. He's not that far away. Sorted. So that tech has given Trevor that extra confidence, and it's built into the iPad and the iPhone. So, it's very easy to use. There are issues around, the person has to be able to give consent for that. They have to understand what they are giving consent for. The great thing about this, about the Find My app, is it works both ways. So sometimes I will kind of meet Trevor the first, on a Monday, and he'll say to me, do you have a good time in Minehead? And I'll be like, did I tell him I was going to Minehead? I'll say, yeah, I did. How do you know? He said, followed you on the app. And I'm like, well, there you go. Hey, it works both ways. But it's a fun thing, and no one I support misuses it or anything. It's just, is it invasive for me? No, not really. Does it bother me if the people I'm supporting know that I've gone to Minehead at the weekend? No, I can always turn it off, and you can build that into your agreement, is that, okay, I'm going to turn it off at the weekend, or I'm going to turn it off when we're only going to use it when we're working together. However you want to use it, guys. This technology is all about you finding ways to use it. There's lots of fancy apps that bring all this stuff together, but it's also kind of available for free and spread out, on a lot of different apps and things. So it's about matching the tech to the person. So I never kind of go straight in and say, right, well, you should be having this and this and this. Let's find out what the person's got and what they need. Now, I just want to show you a little app that I do use a lot with the people. my colleague Becky will bring it up hopefully in a second on the screen. It's called What Three Words? And it is a really great way to communicate, as it says, a precise location. So we're kind of used to using things like Google Maps and things like that. Now, Google Maps is great because you can say to someone, right, we're going to meet, we're going to go to the football match on Saturday. We're going to meet at the stadium. We'll meet at the south entrance. Great. South entrance is a big area. With this, it allows you to literally pinpoint a 3-meter square area. So can we have the next slide, please, Becky? So it basically divides the entire surface of the planet into 3-meter squares, not just roads, every bit of the planet. Now, the advantage of this is that you can be in the middle of a wood. There was a story about a guy who was in Mongolia. He lived in a yurt and he was doing Airbnb. And because of the nomadic way of his lifestyle, it was very hard for people to find him. He uses what 3 words to get people straight to his door. And it's used by some emergency service are now taking it up. I think our local police and ambulance service use it. And to give you a practical example of how it worked, there was a lady who, she had a car accident. She drove off the road, but her car wasn't visible from the road. So no one knew she was there. She had her smartphone. She had what 3 words? She was able to give the emergency service a precise location in this field where she'd ended up. She was kind of, stuck in the car. She can get out. So literally life-saving. Becky, can we have the next slide, please? So yeah, there you go. That's that's kind of what a 3-meter square looks like. So you can see straight away that if you're stood in that corner of that square, you're going to be able to see someone in that square. So they are going to be able to find you in a crowd. Literally, we use it a lot with people at gigs and things like that. It is perfect for that. And as I say, you can actually direct people to. You can say, right, well, meet us at the entrance with a ramp. And you can look at the location on something like Google Maps, Street View, and then you can pinpoint that precise location. So it's very simple to use. The apps, it's kind of, if you're used to using a smartphone, it really is pretty intuitive. Could we have the next slide, please, Becky? So yeah, there's a great example. What it does, it assigns a 3-word code to every single square on the planet. So every single 3-meter square that they've divided the surface of the earth up into, it assigns 3 words. And it's great fun. It's great fun to do this for your own home and see what words it comes up with. I can't remember, what mine is, but it's very random. But there you go. So you get these 3 words that relate to that square and that square alone. It never changes. So imagine that someone in that group of people has an accident, they're incapacitated, they can literally direct the emergency services by just saying steam, paper, toggle. That is it. That is all you need. Okay, could we have the next slide, please, Becky? Yeah, and there you go. Like I say, the words are fixed for each square and never change. So just really useful. It's the technology allows that pinpoint accuracy that a few years ago would have been the domain of like the military and all that kind of stuff. Now it's in the hands of us. Fabulous. Next slide, please, Becky. There you go. Anyone can share the exact location just by saying those 3 words. I did have a breakdown. I had a puncture in my car a few weeks ago. I tried it with the AA. The AA aren't yet. I don't think they were. Well, certainly they weren't. No, it wasn't. Sorry, excuse me. It wasn't the AA at all. My bad. It was another rescue service. They weren't on board with it. They didn't have it. They still found me all right. But I think it'd be worth checking to see whether the AA do use it. It's just really handy. Next slide, please, Becky. Oh, that's it. Thank you very much. Great. So those are just a few little apps that we use just to give you a flavour of kind of what is out there. There are so many apps out there. I'd like to just talk a bit about kind of another client that I support and how it's helped them. I've got a gentleman, we'll call him Chris. Chris loves model cars. Chris is a gentleman who has autism. So he knows everything about model cars. His special interest is model cars. So I kind of when I started working with Chris, I thought, great. As a kid, I had a few little cars and stuff, and I like to think I knew a bit about them. I know nothing about model cars compared to Chris. Chris is able to tell me this is a 69 model because they changed the wheels on that model. And if you look at the base plate, it's different color, so he's got that sort of ability. But what was happening with Chris, he had all these cars and a very small flat. So his parents asked me to come in and maybe use eBay to work with Chris to sell some of the cars that he no longer wanted quite so much, but use them to buy what he really wanted, which was an original 1960s Batmobile model. Fantastic. Who wouldn't want a 1960s Batmobile? Of course I want to help Chris. So we started selling the cars, and what became quickly apparent is Chris he needed a lot of sort of support to use a laptop and to sort of open the browser and search for stuff. But that's because that wasn't Chris's main interest. Chris's main interest was his cars. But he did realize that using eBay and the internet, he could connect with lots of other people who like model cars. And that's what really interested him. One of the things we used to do, and this is what the sort of the mind-blowing bit for Chris, was we would sell model cars for Chris. He would then package them up, send them off. But we wanted to see where they were going. We had the address. We've got Google Maps. So we would put in the address into Google Maps. And then we would go into Street View and Chris could see the actual house of the person who'd bought it off him. Now, we used to do that and Chris would look at the house and go, oh, great. One day, he just sold a model of a Land Rover. So we put the postcode and that into Google Maps. We go to Street View, we see the house, and what should be parked on the drive of this house? Of course, it's a Land Rover. And for Chris, that was such a light bulb moment. It was like, wow, this person he was sending it to wasn't just a postcode and a house number. This was a real person who'd got a real Land Rover. Fantastic. And of course, Chris being Chris, he could look at it. He said, oh yeah, that's a Mark II Series 1A. And it's because it's got, if you look at that front grille, all that kind of stuff. So brilliant. So that is kind of why I love that sort of tech, is that ability to do things like that and to sort of mix and match things. There's no one saying, well, you've got to use it in this way or you've got to use it in that way. You use it however it works with those people. Brilliant. So hobbies and interests and finding like-minded people, it's a great way to bring people together. If people are on social media, there are so many groups. I'm ashamed to say, I'm a member of so many random groups, and I'm certainly not going to share some of the groups that I'm a member of because it is just way too random. But there is a group for everything, and generally the people within those groups are pretty good, because they're all like-minded people. If you collect Lego minifigures, there's a group for you, and it's a great way of meeting people and just expanding your social networks. The people we support, like we say, are so often socially isolated, and suddenly they're talking to someone in America who's got, they've got the exact Lego minifigure that they want. So they're doing a swap and we're kind of like chatting to this person, and I really do believe most people are decent and honest. There are people in these groups sometimes who don't have the best of motives, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about that later. But, generally, yeah, let's support people to get the most out of those things. Now, one of the little ways we've used technology in Europe now is we really wanted to help folk we realized that the digital divide is big and there's a lot of people out there who can't use tech, or they've been given an iPad, they don't really know what to do with it. we decided we wanted to set up a little community project, and we called it the Pop-Up Digital Hub. And in our local town of Bridgewater, our main church is a beautiful, huge church called St. Mary's, and they had just completely refurbished it inside. They had this wonderful cafe area, great cake. It was warm. They had beautiful seating. This is all pre-COVID, so we weren't so worried about, getting together. And so the wonderful vicar, who's a lady called Trish, I approached her and I said, look, I've got this idea. I would like to turn up with my banner that's behind me, an iPad, and we will print off a load of leaflets. We'll do lots of flyer drops around the town. And the idea was that anyone who was about during the daytime, we were there on a Thursday, I think from 12 to 2 in the afternoon. So it's kind of people that would be about a town at that time of day. So it's often older people, young mums, it'd be people with learning disabilities, people who've got maybe mental health conditions, all those people who kind of are the people that most would benefit from sort of technology that we're using. Let's get them in. So we set up the Pop-Up Digital Hub, and I've got a little 3-minute video that I'd like you to maybe just watch, guys. It's on YouTube. And it just kind of explains a little bit about it. And you'll see a couple of people we support and just the
Has it been having the Pop-Up Digital Hub in the church?
I think it's really great. It's encouraged people to come along and ask and find out not only their own questions, but also what's going on, what's all this about, who are these people, and that's absolutely great. Yes, I think it has had an impact on the local community, especially those in the local community who may struggle accessing IT. It means that there is a space that they can come in that is quite relaxed, that they can have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake while they find out the information, and they're not walking into a scary space, they're walking into a friendly space, and I think that makes all the difference. Yeah, I would love it to extend. I think it will develop and grow and hopefully be able to help a wider group of people.
I like coming to the digital pop-up hub because I get to learn things that I've never used before around the internet. Things I've never used before, like downloading apps or being safe while I'm out in the community using the internet. Well, I like the cake in the cafe and the sandwiches and the drinks. No, basically it's just getting to know the people that come in to, talk to you about your pop-up digital hub and getting them to use the internet safely and creating pages for them on our website. And I've learned quite a few things about digital animation through the pictures and helping to give some information to people that you support.
So Ali, tell us a bit about why you like coming here.
Well, I come in here to see my friends. If there are any friends here. Sometimes if I have problems with my mobile phone, I ask Alex to give me a hand if there's any problems with my phone. Nice and friendly.
Fabulous. Thank you, Becky. That's great. That was brilliant. Oh, my friends Phil and Ali, they are such stars. Brilliant, brilliant. So we ran the pop-up digital hub. One of the other gentlemen I support would come along and help me do the techie side. And it was just to give you a great example of how we connected. So Ali, the lady that was featured there, we were in there one day and she was talking to a lady who'd come in for a bit of help with her iPad. Once they got talking, they realized this lady not only used to be a neighbor of Ali's, she used to babysit Ali when she was little. And you just think, wow, oh, I love those connections that kind of, that's what we love about tech, is its ability. It literally kind of brought people together. Even though they weren't using tech, it brought people together. So it was really successful. We've had to stop obviously doing it at the moment during COVID. We hope we will launch it again, and we have been delivering it, as it said, through other locations throughout Somerset. We don't charge anything for it. It is free. It's kind of our little payback to the community, if you like, for all the great things that we get out of the community. So we just really enjoy doing it. And the only thing is, although I'm here talking to you guys now, I am by no means an expert. I'd love to say I'm a tech expert. I'm not. I know fractionally more than maybe the average person, but it always used to make me laugh. People would come into the hub with problems and they'd say, now on Excel, I can't merge two columns into one. How do I? And I'm like, I have no idea. But what I'm really good at is Google. So let's Google it and find out. And people are often like, oh, so you don't know how to turn off the ringtone on this particular? I'm like, no, I don't know everything about every phone, but Google probably does. So let's use it. And just doing that, you're letting people see that you are human. You're not a tech support center. And we had some great conversations around that. So you can use that sort of tech to you can go take it with you. That's why we love iPads. And that brings me on to why I use iPads particularly, and kind of Apple products. It's just they work really well. The best bit of tech to use is the bit of tech that someone's got. So if someone's got a smartphone and it's running Android, brilliant. That doesn't matter. We happen to use iPads because they're built well, they last, they're a little bit pricey, but they do last. I've still got my very first iPad I ever bought from about, goodness, how many years ago, and it still does kind of work. So they do last. But don't get sold a system that you're not happy with. Just use what you've got. The thing about the people we support is they want to be using the same stuff as everyone else. There is a place for specialist tech. And it's really, really important. I was looking at a bit of kit the other day. It was called, some of you folk may have heard of it. It's called eye gaze, and it enables people to operate computers and devices literally by staring. They'll stare at a certain bit and it tracks their eye movement. They've just brought out a module for an iPad. Now, this module is about £2,000, and I totally understand why it's that expensive, because of the development costs of it. So you've got a £2,000 bit of kit. You've got an iPad. It needs an iPad Pro to run on, I think, which is usually about £600-700. So that's a big investment. If you are someone who is in a wheelchair and that is your only means of communication, it can, the cost is perfectly acceptable, and I get that. But a lot of the people we are supporting maybe don't have that kind of money. And as I say, they want to use the same things that everyone else is using. There's a lady locally who she developed her own social network. It was an amazing piece of work. It was very secure. People could join it, talk to their friends. It was great. A social network is only as good as how many people are using it. There weren't many people using it. You'd go on, no one else would be on there. So you couldn't do much. So what became apparent quite quickly is it was a great bit of work, and she put so much effort into it. But, at the end of the day, you are competing with Mark Zuckerberg. Do you want to be competing with Mark Zuckerberg? Not really. What you want to be doing is allowing people to use things like social media safely, because they just want to use, the guys we support want to use the same things that everyone else has got. So I'll briefly talk about some of the augmented reality. I'm aware the clock's ticking. I've been waffling a lot. I do apologise. Augmented reality, all that kind of stuff. There's some amazing things coming in. If you don't know, augmented reality is where you can look through your phone camera at something and it will give you layers of additional information over the top of it. So it will tell you, pointed at a certain building, that will then tell you a bit of information about that building. There is some incredible tech coming in, but don't get scared by it. The best tech is the simplest tech. So my friend again, Ali, she loves using Alexa. And what I find really interesting about the way she uses Alexa is how incredibly polite she is. She will ask Alexa something, and then she will thank Alexa because she loves getting a response from Alexa. So she'll say, Alexa, what's the weather going to be? Alexa will tell her. She'll then say, thank you. And then Alexa will say, it's a pleasure. And she loves that interaction. And don't kind of dismiss the amount of kind of what people get from that company. From talking to Alexa, you can ask it jokes, you can get it to do all sorts of things, you can get it to remind you of stuff. It's usable tech. What we love is tech that is simple and easy to use. LED light bulbs can be linked to Alexa. You can get Wi-Fi enabled light bulbs. So Ali now can sit in her chair and turn off the lights. She can get to the top of the stairs and turn off the lights. She doesn't have to turn the lights off and go up the stairs in the dark. So let's use that stuff that's freely available. Let's not get too wrapped up in all the high-end stuff. Let's make sure we're using that real basic stuff. Now, Facebook and social media. We've already talked about why kind of the proprietary LD networks aren't so successful, but we want to help the people we support connect to all their friends and family. There are things we need to think about. We've got a responsibility to talk about those issues with the people we support. Will they be aware of the always-on nature of social media? Because it is, we kind of, a lot of us, we've come off social media because we get fed up with reading about our neighbour's new stair carpet, and all that kind of malarkey. So are the people we support prepared for that kind of sudden, rush of information? In my experience, most of the people I support love all that. Because they love being connected to that. But we've got to be aware of it. If you haven't watched it, there's a great Netflix program. I think it's called, I'm looking at my notes here. It's called The Social Dilemma, and it's got a lot of people from Google and Facebook or ex-employees who talk in detail about those social networks. Quite scary, but very eye-opening, and it's worth watching. Yeah, Social Dilemma it's called. So we need to know, you guys know the people you support far better than I do. So you will know whether somebody has that kind of capacity to make use of Facebook. We all make cock-ups on Facebook. In my head, when I'm posting on my niece's page, on her Facebook page, I sound like Oscar Wilde. I'm basically as funny as Oscar Wilde in my head. The reality is I'm much more like Wurzel Gummidge. And, it's that disconnect between, I think I sound brilliant, but it doesn't translate as that. It just comes across as me being a rude middle-aged bloke. You know what I mean? So we've got to be aware of that. And social media is not, right, we're going to get Trevor on social media today. Right, we've set him up with a password. He's got his account. Off he goes. No, of course, we're not going to do that. We never set people up to fail. We have to be prepared that there's going to be quite an intensive period of support needed for someone on social media. And that might be ongoing. Some of the people I get asked to support, they need that constant reminder of, well, let's not add everybody that we know in the entire world. Let's kind of keep it to people we know in the real world, not just people who've added us randomly on Facebook. So there is that kind of, it's not a fit and forget situation. We don't get someone on social media and then just, that's it. Be honest when you're assessing skill levels. And also, are they going to get something out of it? let's not just put them on there for the sake of it. Are they actually going to use it? Is it going to be useful? Maybe they try it and then they'll stop using it, and that's fine. That's fine. Do the people we support have kind of those addictive personalities? Is that something we need to consider? Do they understand that if they're playing something like a game on Facebook and it's free, well, what they're paying, what the payment is probably their information. You know, do they understand about not putting maybe their birthday on Facebook, or maybe not putting the year of their birthday? You know, we need to do regular privacy checks and help the people to kind of make sure their profiles are locked down. We need to do regular privacy checks. So many people I work with, kind of the amount of stuff that is viewable publicly. Just go on. I mean, just Google yourself. It's a great thing to do. Google yourself, see what information comes up. Go onto Facebook. Can you see your profile? What is available? You know, just be aware of it. Can the people we work with self-regulate? Are they able to kind of make those decisions and choices? You know, so just be aware of it. But you might want to agree some boundaries with the people you're supporting around Facebook and that. You know, just have those conversations. Don't be afraid to talk about them. Historically, you know, what I've noticed is often staff who don't use Facebook, obviously they're not going to, you know, they're like, oh no, he wouldn't get any benefit from it. It's like, really? Or are you just saying that because you don't understand it? Many of the younger people we support are way better at social media than people of my generation, you know. So don't let that hold us back from getting people online, because there are so many great advantages of being online. And even with things like social media, you know, we can enhance their hobbies and interests. We can keep in touch with community activities, all those things. And yeah, little plug, we are here as well to help with that stuff. So if you have specific questions, if you get, you know, people get into trouble on social media, we can help you with that. We can help with those kind of getting it all secure and stuff. Now, I'm aware we've only got 10 minutes. I'm going to quickly talk a bit about using people with learning disabilities and or autism to supercharge your business. And then we're going to have a few questions. So please hang on for that if you've got some burning questions or anything. So one of my last jobs, I was explaining to Becky before we started the meeting today, one of my last jobs was working for my local social services, and I was a job coach. So I've seen the kind of real amazing impact that people working in real meaningful employment has for the people we support. We don't need tokenism. There is always a place for people getting work experience, and, you know, that classic sort of someone with a learning disability working in a charity shop and all that. Because often what the people really want is that human connection again. And they love that. The fact they're doing a useful job is kind of almost secondary sometimes, you know, but they love that human connection. So there is always that role. But when it's meaningful paid employment, I've seen people's confidence grow. And the other thing is that it's a knock-on effect for your business, because so often when we've introduced someone into you know, whether it's a cafe or a shop, there will be a member of staff who will take that person under their wing, and suddenly that member of staff has got a new role, and, you know, they can see the difference. Maybe they've never worked with someone with a learning disability or autism before, and maybe they're a bit nervous about it, but they can see straight away the difference that you know, having that job is making to that person. And so it's kind of like you know, it's like a passing on that good feeling. You know, you sort of, as the worker, feel like, wow, I'm really helping this person. You know, let's not forget, without autism, there would be no Silicon Valley. You know, so many people we know who've got that ability to be totally focused on what they're doing. And, you know, often I've worked with people with autism, and you're like, it's the problem isn't getting them to work, because they will be there dead on time every day in the snow. They'll be there unless they're dead, you know. They will be there. And the problem is getting them to stop work. You're like, oh, it's time to go home now. And they're like, oh, but I've still got this bit to do. And one story which I must tell, there was a guy who went for a high-level tech job with a tech company. The tech company looked at his resume and they just knew that this guy was going to be amazing. The gentleman was someone who had autism, and he was very honest with them. He said, they offered him the job and he said, I will take it, but I want to come in at night when there's no one else there. And I don't want anyone else to just, to have anyone near me or anything like that. Now, you would think, well, that's it, forget it. How could, ridiculous. Luckily, the tech company were very forward thinking, and they realized that this guy, his skill set was just out of this world. And they thought, no, we're gonna run with this. So they employed a security guard to be there during the night, to let the guy in. He was coming in at like 7 o'clock in the evening, I think, and was it 10 o'clock in the evening, and staying through till 6 o'clock in the morning. So he would work through the night. He made this company millions, absolute millions, simply because the company were adaptable, and they looked at how can we help this guy, because this guy's got so much to offer. I did some work a while ago. I had a guy come to me to do a little bit of job coaching recently. This guy had a degree in space engineering. This guy was literally the proverbial rocket scientist. He had a degree in space engineering, but he struggled because in a work setting, he would be working, he would be hungry, he would go to the fridge, he would eat his co-worker's lunch. He couldn't understand what was wrong with that. The lunch was in the fridge, it's food, I'm hungry, therefore I eat it. So my job was to kind of go in and kind of talk to him about, right, how, okay, just because I hadn't got someone's name on it doesn't mean we can help ourselves to it. And it's those sort of social things he needed help with. It wasn't the technical thing, because, his technical skills were so far beyond anything that I could offer him. He knew all that stuff, but it was the social aspect that he just needed a help with. So yeah, guys, there are some great projects out there. Our local, one of our local care service providers, Discovery, they've been running a thing called Project Search. I think it's a national thing. I think it's not just Discovery. Project Search, where they get people into like places like hospitals and stuff. And there was a great example of a lady with autism, and they've got her into hospitals she lays out all the instruments for the surgeons before the operation. She kind of gets all those packages together. Suited her skill set perfectly. Let's really look at what the people we work with are good at and get them using those skills. My friend who's really good at model cars, I'm not going to get him working in a cafe. What I'm going to get him doing is something related to model cars. Maybe he would work in a second-hand shop, but it would be sorting out the model cars. Let's use people's skills. Let's kind of tap into that. Let's make use of all of that. There is even a sort of thought that autism itself isn't. It's often historically it would be referred to as a disability. Some people are thinking maybe autism is even another stage of human evolution. Like, we've given all the boring stuff over to the machines. They can do all that now. We can focus on the really, we can be like if my brain is like a kind of somewhat dim torch with a very wide beam. So I know a little bit about a load of stuff, but not in any great detail. Often people with autism, their knowledge is like a laser beam. It is like, boom, absolutely pinpoint on a very small area, but my word, they know everything about that small area. So yeah, let's use people's talents for stuff like that. So guys, we're coming up to 25 past. Now, I really want to thank you for joining us today and for listening me to waffle on so much. I do apologize. I just didn't want to make it death by PowerPoint. I'm sure we've all been in Zoom meetings like that. We've done well. I've not had my cat disturb me. I've not had cows, and hopefully you guys are still awake. So I think Becky will flag up. I'm just going to look at the questions, see if we've got. I don't think anyone's put anything up there at the moment, but I really hope you've enjoyed it. it's such an honor to be able to kind of really talk about the tech. I just get so passionate about it, and I hope that passion comes out. We have another talk that we've done around gaming. I was very honoured to be on a panel, and the discussion was around. It was called "Everybody Games," but everybody games, but are games made for everybody? So you can check that out. That's on the Bath Digital Festival site as well. That will be coming up soon. I was just speaking to Becky, and she was saying it's not yet live, but they're hoping that will be up soon. And we've got a really exciting new project called the Association for Neurodiversity in Video Games, ANVG. Look us up on Facebook. And that's around getting the people we work with involved in gaming. So we got one question. From our friend Jules. Hi, Jules. Are there any useful apps which have worked really well to help people achieve their outcomes? Well, as I say, the what 3 words is really, really useful. I've been very honoured to do some work around Brain in Hand. Our local council has been very forward thinking. Brain in Hand is a great app that brings together a sort of planning aspect and a lot of coping strategies all in one very clear package. And I've been helping deliver the Brain in Hand app with clients around Somerset through Somerset County Council, and that's been kind of really interesting to see how people have been using that. So it's a great app. And yeah, you can actually get it. You can actually kind of, if you inquire, the council are currently, I think we're currently still rolling it out on a test basis. We're going to see how that goes. Hopefully it will become more available, but check out Brain in Hand anyway. It's really good. Amanda has asked, I'd really like my son to be supported and develop a circle of support and social media to sustain it, but we have some issues to address, such as destruction of equipment, and also staff skills, consent, GDPR, and which makes staff less confident to support him and be connected. So it's really important that the people we employ and our staff that we support are just as enthusiastic about it. So do try and choose people who are a little bit confident in it, or at least willing to learn, and yes, of course, we all have to be aware there are lots of issues around things like GDPR and keeping people's data safe and all of that stuff. Sorry, Jules is saying, is there a list available of useful apps? Jules, I don't have a specific app at the a list at the moment. There is, I'm just racking my brains. I'm remembering that I get a regular email through, which I will try and forward on to you, because I can't remember the name of it offhand. So sorry, I sound really professional, don't I? So sorry about that. I will try and forward it on to you, but there are I have seen a list of apps that can be useful. Anne has asked, how do you deal with safety to keep people safe? How long's a bit of string? It's kind of, you've really got to know that person and know what kind of their motivations are, and what drives them and stuff, and kind of understand that. And for some people, they just, there's a gentleman I support, and he just cannot, he cannot, with social media, control those impulses to contact random people. What he strives for, what he really wants is a relationship with someone, and he strives for that human connection, and he will put himself in danger to kind of get that human connection. And so he needs really intensive support around social media, and we've had to agree certain boundaries, and he will only use it at certain times with staff and all of that thing. But we're hoping that he will, we can help him to sort of overcome that and see the other benefits of it. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm aware that we are now 10:31. I'm sure you've all got lots of important stuff to do. I've got to go and see some people now. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. And please do share the hell out of it. If you think someone else would be interested to listening to a 55-year-old blonde guy with big earrings waffle on, please feel free to share this from the Bath Digital Festival. And once again, just thank you so much to Becky and Vicky and all the guys behind the scenes who've done so much to get this all working. So thank you. And thank you very much for joining me. And you can also contact us at You're It Now, www.youritnow.co.uk. And we'd also love to talk to you about our new gaming project and how we're going to get people with learning disabilities gaming and getting paid for it. So that's a really exciting little teaser for you. So don't hesitate to get in touch and contact us. And you can Google me, Alex Rowland, Roland. If you type in Alex Rowland Somerset, I will come up on Google. So thank you very much, guys. And yeah, thank you for joining us. I will, oh, hold on. Have I missed any questions? Hang on, guys. So, no, thank you very much. Michelle, thank you. I'm glad you thought it was useful. If I haven't answered your question, guys, join us another, drop us a line. All right. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure.